Okay, so put your name on the top, of course. This is going to be 2 lessons, so it's 1.4 and 1.5. And it's multiplying, dividing negative integers, so I probably need to abbreviate to fit that in. Mult and div. Multiply and divide. Negative integers. And it's the 13th. And this is period 7. Okay, our EQ is on the board, but it's how do we multiply and divide negative integers. And since you guys just told me how you do this a minute ago, it should be pretty easy. So on the left hand side we're going to put the rules. So we have multiply, we'll do that first. And we'll do some examples, and then we'll do the divide with some examples. Okay, so multiply, you guys said a positive times a positive equals a positive. So an example would be, we'll just put a 1 for this one, would be something like 3 times 2 equals 6. Real basic. And then let's say the second thing is we have a positive times a negative. And that equals a negative. So example 2 there would be something like 3 times negative 2, and that would be negative 6. So that literally means we have 3 sets of negative 2's. So for repeated addition, it's just like negative 2 plus negative 2 plus negative 2. That's where that comes from, okay? And then the third thing you said was if we do a negative times a negative, we end up with a positive. So let's say we have negative 3 times negative 2. We actually end up with a positive 6. Raise your hand if you ever heard of the third rule, maybe in 6th grade from somebody. Yeah, nobody in the other class raised their hand on that either. So that is new for everybody. Actually, both of these are probably new for everybody. Positive times a negative and a negative times a negative. But they don't really get more challenging than that. Okay, let's write some stuff for divide. When we're dividing, the positive divided by a positive is still a positive. That does not change. So let's make one of those up. Let's do 10 divided by 2. Those are both positives. They equal positive 5. So let's try a positive divided by a negative. What do you guys think that equals? A positive or a negative? A negative. It's the same rules as multiplying, so that makes it easy to remember. So here's an example. Let's do 10 divided by negative 2. So that would be negative 5. And what about a negative divided by a negative? A positive. It's the same rules. Isn't that great? So let's do that one. So let's do negative 10 divided by negative 2, and that should be a positive 5. There's something, if you switch the order, it doesn't matter. So let's say when you're dividing, if you want to change that to a negative divided by a positive, you still get a negative. So I'm going to rewrite that. So say you have negative 10 divided by positive 2, you still get negative 5. Division is not always written left to right. You know how sometimes it's written with like a little bar, a divisor bar, like this? Let me rewrite it on the right side. So I could have 10 with a bar under it and then 2 like that. And that's still 5, we know that. Or you could have 10 with a -2 like that. So I'm just rewriting it a different way so you guys can see it, okay? And then you might have like this. You'll see a lot of these, and that's still a +5. And then the last one would be -10 divided by 2, and that's still -5. Okay, so those are pretty straightforward, but every once in a while I see that they put this question on the quizzes and tests, and it's normally a multiple choice, and it says, select all that are equivalent to 5. Have you guys ever seen those? And you have to bubble in all of the ones that work. And it's kind of annoying because if you miss one, then they like take off a lot of points and stuff. Yeah? So whenever I give you quizzes like that or tests, I actually tell you how many. So I'll say select 3 that are equivalent. Isn't that nice of me? That's so nice. Such a nice person. So I want to show you one of them that would look like that, and it's a little bit different. And it might have, you guys see how these like negative signs are in front of the integer? You see that? So sometimes you'll get one like this where it's either on the top or the bottom. Or sorry, it's not on the top or the bottom, it's in the middle. So it's like right there next to the line. You guys ever seen it like that? I think on your quick check last week there was one like that. That's still -5. And then other times you'll see it like this. They'll put -10 on the top and -2 on the bottom and then a negative in the middle like that. What do you think happens there? Do you think it's a positive or a -5? Raise your hand for +5. Raise your hand for -5. So 3 of you, 4 of you think it's a -5? You're right. Because this right here, if I'm going to put parentheses around it, see that? That negative divided by negative makes a +5, right? But then there's one more negative. So this is a -5. See, they try to trick you. So they'll put all of these and say which one's equivalent to -5, and you would pick only the ones equivalent to -5. So there's a rule, that's kind of what I was talking about earlier, so let's put it on the left with a star. Odd number of negatives equal a negative. And that works for multiplying and dividing. Odd number. So there's 3 right there, right? 3 negatives? They equal the negative. There's 1 right there. 1 is an odd number, right? So that's a negative. So I'm not really going to write down the other half of the rule, which just states if there's an even number, it's a positive, because you already know if there's an odd, it's a negative. Right? An even will be a positive. Okay, so let's do a few U tries. Told you it was short notes. Number 1. Let's do, and I'm going to beef them up a little because those were easy before. So let's do -5 times, you guys know that dot means times, right? -5 times -2. I'm mixing it up. Some will have parentheses, some won't. Just raise your hand when you think you know the answer. Okay, what's the answer? Well, I heard some different things. I heard a -20, I heard a -10, I heard a -50. I heard that. Who said -50? You did? Anybody else say that one? You did. Yeah, that's the right answer. So, first of all, how many negatives are there? 3. So we know it's going to be negative. That's an odd number. And then we just do 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 2 is 50. Oh, okay. Let's try another one. Let's try another one. Just to make sure you got it. Let's do 10 times negative 2. And you know when it's right next to each other, that means times. And times negative 5. Maybe this one's easier for you. Anyone think they know? Raise your hand if you know. Three of you know? 4 of you know? 5 of you? Okay, what's the answer? What? I heard negative 100 and I heard a positive 100. And how many negative numbers are here?
2.
2. And so that's an even, so that means it becomes a positive. So that's 100. Right? 2 times 5 is 10. Get rid of the negatives. 10 times 10 is 100. We better try another one. We better try, just to make sure. Let's do a division. Let's do negative 100 divided by negative 2 multiplied by negative 3. You need to know your order of operations here. Okay, raise your hand when you know. 2 people know. 3 people. Oh, that's better. Okay, what's the answer?
Negative 100.
That was better. I heard mostly this. So let's look at this. Order of operations says we work left to right when we have multiply and divide. So negative 100 divided by negative 2. 2 negatives make a positive there. So that is 50. And then we times by negative 3. Sure. Negative 100 divided by negative 2. That makes 50. And then we multiply that by negative 3. Well, a lot of people think multiplication comes before division because they memorize PEMDAS, which is not good. Remember when we talked about GEMS and how GEMS is better because multiply and divide are together, but you always work left to right? Yeah. So a lot of people, when they memorize PEMDAS, miss these. So don't do that anymore. Okay. Other questions? Yes? Yeah, we're going to do one more. Question?
How do you get the negative?
Okay, so remember an odd number makes a negative. An even would make a positive. So here's even. That makes a positive. But there's one more. That's an odd number.
Oh.
Yeah. Was that the same question you had, Michael? Okay. So you have to refer to the rules that are on the left-hand side of your notes too, right? Okay. Number 4, last one. Let's see if you can get it, and then we'll move on. So I'm going to rewrite it differently. I'm going to write a minus, and then on top I'm going to put a negative 20 divided by, on the bottom I'm going to put a positive 5. And then I'll multiply that times negative 3 times negative 4. Uh-huh. It's a division. I think you can do this. This one you might have to work a little bit harder to get, but you'll get it. Okay, who knows? Anyone? Oh, a few of you know. That's good. That was fast. Anybody else think they know? Still working? Okay, I'm hoping that everyone's going to say the same exact number. Are you ready?
No.
Ready, set, go.
Negative 48.
I heard negative 48 and I heard a positive 48. So I can tell you that the digits are right. Raise your hand if you say positive 48. Oh, nobody? Oh, one person? I thought I heard more. 2 people? Raise your hand if you said negative 48. Okay, so I'm going to work this out. Here we go. So first, what's negative 20 over 5? What is that?
14.
But it's -4, right? Hold on, just that. Then we have a negative out front, so what happens there? Changes to a positive. Okay? Now we multiply that. What's a negative times a negative?
Positive.
And that's 12, right? What's 4 times 12?
48.
So, the 2 of you or 3 of you that said positive were right. But let's look at this again because I said an odd number makes a negative, an even number makes a positive. How many negatives are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4. So that's an even number. It has to be a positive. Oh. So we can always go back and check our work that way. Okay? Any questions? You want to do more? We're going to do more, but in the book. In the book.